If you're a Scotch whiskey lover like me, then you're well aware that prices have gone completely out of hand, which is why I scoured my market for the best value buys in Scotch whiskey in 2023. Hey guys, welcome back to Whiskey on the West Coast. My name is Matt, and as we just touched on, prices for Scotch whiskey are kind of getting out of control. And that's why I went ahead and I scoured my market, which is British Columbia and Alberta. That's where I buy my whiskey, for the best value buys, in my opinion, in Scotch whiskey right now, the year 2023. So I put together a top 10 list. I want to run through my top 10. I might mention a couple honorable mentions. And I love the community that we've got here on Whiskey on the West Coast. You guys are so great with your comments. Every market is different. I know it's very subjective to the market. So comment down below once you've seen the top 10 here. Let me know your top value pick for your market. So let me know your market and let me know what is your best value Scotch whiskey pick. Let's get to this list. I suppose I should clarify before we jump into this list what I mean by best value. And I'm not talking about like the cheapest bottle that you can get at the store. I'm talking about bottles that bring value in good performance, but also don't cost an arm and a leg. So the most expensive whiskey I have on my list costs $75 Canadian, which is about $55 American right now. And that bottle you can actually usually get cheaper on sale. So we're largely talking about whiskeys that in my markets, BC and Alberta, would run under $50 American, and again, under $75 Canadian. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have the Ardbeg Wee Beastie 5-year-old single malt Scotch from Islay. It's 47.4%. It's non-chill filtered. It's natural color, so it's an integrity bottle there. And it is a true integrity bottle because they proudly put that 5-year age statement on the front of the bottle. Something that a lot of whiskey distilleries and makers aren't willing to do because they're scared that that young age is going to scare off consumers. Well, I think the Wee Beastie is sold really well, and I hope it encourages others to do the same in the future and just tell us how old the whiskey is in the bottle. It's a mix of ex-bourbon casks and Oloroso sherry casks, and I killed my bottle rather quickly because it was actually really enjoyable. Now, it's not going to knock the Ardbeg 10 off its perch as my favorite of the core lineup, along with, say, Ugdal and Corryvreckan, but it is a phenomenal value as Ardbeg 10 has gone up to about $110 Canadian in my market, and then add 15% off on for tax. It's a lot of money. It's $65 Canadian. It has a place in this list, and it is a good fill-in for that budget buy from Ardbeg. Number 9 is one of the most reasonably priced whiskeys in existence, and I think it is reasonably priced in almost every market I've looked at, and that is the Deanston Virgin Oak Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Now, it runs about $50 Canadian in my market, which is about as cheap as you're gonna find a single malt Scotch whiskey in Canada, and it's pretty much that price across the board, across the country. It's not much more expensive than that. It's 46.3% alcohol, the Distill signature right there, non-chill filtered, natural color. It's remarkably good whiskey, as long as you aren't put off by the heavier hand that Virgin Oak can have. It's nutty, it's got citrus notes, stewed prunes, spice. I really enjoy it. I probably have to go ahead and get another bottle of that one. Deanston Virgin Oak is a great value buy. Number 8 on this list is going to be the Loch Lomond 12-year-old Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, coming in at 46% alcohol, non-chill filtered, natural color. This whiskey is one of the best performing whiskeys for the money in the market. It is a light yet lightly peated whiskey that is really wonderfully fruity as well. There's a lot of people that whisper about similarities to a certain Campbelltown 10-year-old whiskey, Springbank 10, and it is just really nuanced. It's a balanced whiskey, and it's something that I think almost anyone who's starting out their Scotch journey really needs to try. At $65 Canadian in my market, yeah, that's a great buy. Loch Lomond 12-year-old. Number 7 on this list is the Benromach 10-year-old Speyside Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. It's bottled at 43% alcohol. It is a natural color, and it's coming to us from the Gordon MacPhail Independent Bottlers, and they use exclusively first fill, ex-bourbon, and sherry casks to make this whiskey. It is an old school Speyside whiskey, moderately peated. It's kind of dirty character to it, but it's still really fruity and a really characterful spirit that a lot of people are now referring to as kind of the Springbank of Speyside. And you can see that they're clearly cousins from the cask makeup, the way the whiskey's made, and the general vibe of this whiskey. I love it. It's one of my favorites. The only knock against it is the lower bottling strength at 43%, likely means that this is chill filtered. But again, it's natural color at least, and they have a really good cask management program. I love this whiskey, even though it's bottled a little under strength. I think it's a tremendous value at $58 Canadian is what I can usually pick this up at. I actually got this bottle for $45 on a clearance sale. There are deals still out there, and this one is just a genuine value pickup. Benromach 10-year-old. It's tremendous value. I love this whiskey. Number 6 on this list is going to be the Arran, the Bodega, Sherry Cask Strength Island Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. Now, this is my go-to sherry bomb or cask strength sherried whiskey right now. And what I mean by sherry bomb is actually it's a really well balanced sherry bomb. All the richness, the red fruits, the sweets, and the spice, they're all in harmony. And this is at a brilliant price too. It's 55.8% alcohol, non-chill filtered, natural color, because why would you mess with that? The price in Alberta is $68 Canadian. That's what you can get this for on a regular basis. In BC, it's a little bit different at $130 Canadian. But that's why this has an edge on things like Aberlour Abuna, which are $160 Canadian in BC, or Glenfarclas 105, which is $145 or $105 in Alberta. This whiskey packs a punch. It's a lot of value. This bottling was 9 years old. I believe they've removed the age statement from subsequent batches, but the quality still seems to be there. It's well worth the money at $68 Canadian. Wow. Cracking the top half of this list at number 5 is an old stalwart here. It's Ledwidge 10-year-old Island Single Malt Scotch Whiskey from the Isle of Mull from the Tobermory Distillery. It is at the Distill signature percentage of 46.3% alcohol. It's non-chill filtered. It's natural color. It's one of the very best heavily peated value core expressions out there on the market. I pick up usually like rich plumes of peated malt, and they're enveloped with sweet desserts like flambéed creme brulee, smoked salted caramels, some cheesecake, some dirtiness, some funkiness. I really love this whiskey. It's one of my favorites. A lot of people are getting onto it too. This whiskey is $75 Canadian at regular price in either Alberta or BC, and oftentimes goes on sale in BC about $5 off. And when you can get it in Alberta for 15% off, it's about $63 Canadian. But at regular price, this is the most expensive whiskey on the list, and you can get it cheaper. Phenomenal value, something I'll always have on my shelf. And it was the first review on this channel for a reason. I adore this whiskey. Ledwidge 10-year-old. 4th place on this list is kind of an underdog. We have the Glen Garioch 12-year-old Highland Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. It comes in at 48% alcohol. It is non-chill filtered, but it does have color added to it. And this whiskey is a great relief pitcher for when you don't have Springbank 10 on the shelf. It's one of the best alternatives to it. Using that lovely mixture again of ex-bourbon casks and sherry casks. It's sweet toffee orange, latest touch of peat, maybe more of a solventy industrial funk, dirty note. Honestly, it's a great whiskey and at a great price. No matter where I look in my markets here in BC and Alberta, I can get it for about $63 Canadian, sometimes less. That is a great value. I think it's going up in some markets, so get it while you can. I think I'm gonna make sure I get another bottle of this before the price increases. Glen Garioch, 12-year-old. If you haven't had it, give it a shot. Now, at number 3, this is the second appearance on this list for this distillery. I have the Arran 10-year-old Island Single Malt Scotch Whiskey coming in at 46% alcohol, non-chill filtered, natural color, just the way Arran always does it. It's a perennial favorite. It's a multiple award winner at the Oswas, hosted by Roya and Ralphie. It's a tremendous value at the price point of $55 Canadian. That's the price I found it at in Alberta. Typically runs a little bit more than that, but not much more. In BC, it's a different story. It's about $100 Canadian plus taxes. I'm not going to buy it at that price, but while I can still get it at $55 or thereabouts, it's an absolute buy. 100%. I love this whiskey. Sweet, fruity malt, character, dessert notes, some spicing. I really love it. I only don't have it right now because I'm going through other errands, but I need to pick up another bottle before that price goes up. Arran 10-year-old. Great whiskey. Number 3. Runner-up on this list at number 2 is the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old Islay Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, one of the absolute keystone malts of Scotland, an absolute classic and a standard. This is the 3rd bottle from Distill on this list, which just tells me Distill's core ranges from Ledwidge, Tobermory, Deanston, Bunnahabhain, absolutely fairly priced, great value whiskeys. back to Bunnahabhain 12-year-old, 46.3% alcohol, non-chill filtered, natural color. This is a fantastic value in a market like Alberta. Now it's starting to go up, but I was able to get my last bottle of this for $66 Canadian. I believe it's running regular price about $80 there now. And in BC, this runs just a hair under $100 Canadian. However, if you're buying from Alberta, you can get it on sale quite often at that mark in around $65 to $70 Canadian. Well worth it. If it is not fairly priced in your market, don't fret too much, because the Bunnahabhain Sturadur is a non-age statement release from Bunnahabhain that is still actually really fairly priced and has a great performance to value ratio as well. That's 46.3% non-chill filtered natural color. It just doesn't have an age statement on it. So if Bunnahabhain 12 is not fairly priced in your market, give that a shot. But number 2, Bunnahabhain 12-year-old. All right, 3 honorable mentions real quick, bear with me. So Bruichladdich, love the distillery. Their Islay Barley 2013 absolutely blew me away when compared to their core range lineup. I did that in a previous video, check that out if you haven't already. But it was a fantastic value at $80 Canadian is the price I picked it up at. You can usually find it for $100 if it's a bit more pricey. But it performed well against the Bear Barley. It outclassed the organic. And I even, I didn't prefer it to the Black Art, but for the price of almost, oh goodness me, 8 times, 9 times more, I would definitely buy the Bruichladdich Islay Barley 2013 over that. Port Charlotte Islay Barley, you're seeing a trend here. I love the Islay Barleys. If you were thinking about trying an Octomore 0.3 release, maybe try a Port Charlotte Islay Barley first, because those are using, again, Islay Barley, just like the 0.3s. They're peated down a little bit less, so they're 50 phenol parts per million instead of like 200. But you can usually pick them up for between $90 to $100 Canadian. They're usually actually a little bit older than the Octomore 0.3s as well. I think it's a great way to have a nice look into heavily peated Bruichladdich that's made with barley only grown on Islay. Finally, Killoman Sanig, I was able to pick that up for a buddy here in Abbotsford, British Columbia for $90 Canadian, which is actually about what you're going to pay in Alberta right now too. It's a phenomenal performing bottle for that price. I'm a little Islay-centric, but those are great bottles. On to number 1. Number 1 on my list of top 10 value buys in Scotch in 2023 is what's in my glass right here, and that is the Craigellachie 13-year-old Speyside Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. This whiskey is bottled at 46% alcohol, non-chill filtered, it's natural color. It is a worm tub distillery, one of the ones still left and hanging around. It's characterful, it's thick, it's oily, it's got some nice funk, it's robust, it's delicious, it's unique. It's one of the composite malts that makes up Dewar's blends. I think this is a fantastic whiskey. It is a great, yet another great pinch hitter for Springbank 10 when you do not have it on hand. This whiskey seems to be fairly priced in almost every market that I can look at. It usually retails about $80 Canadian, but I picked this bottle up for $45 Canadian. I can still get it on sale for $49 Canadian out of Alberta. That's freaking amazing. For this kind of whiskey, that's unreal. I love this whiskey. I want to make sure I always have it kicking around. It is something that is just incredibly, incredibly delicious. Thank you once again for joining me on Whiskey on the West Coast. Like I said earlier, let's help each other out as a community. I love this community. I love the comments that I'm getting. If you can mention down below in a comment what market you're in and what are your best value picks in Scotch in your market. Let's see if we can make a list and help each other out if we're trying to find good value Scotch whiskies. Once again, thank you for joining me. If you can like, share, subscribe if you haven't already. If you're enjoying this content, I really hope you are. And come back for more in the future. From the West Coast, Slange.